Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from anthonymorganti.com, and this is episode 19 of Photo Critiques. And in Photo Critiques, people send me in some of their images, and I critique each shot with suggestions on how they can improve it, and hopefully all of us gain some knowledge on how we could improve our photography. Today, I'm glad to critique the work of Norman Manalo, and again, I'm probably pronouncing your name wrong, and if I am, I apologize. And Norman sent me in some really nice shots. Norman told me he considers himself a beginner and he's looking for some tips, and I'm glad to try to help him out. Before I get to Norman's work though, if you guys could do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel and share and like the videos, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, this first shot of Norman's, I've looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, and it's missing something, but for the life of me I really can't put my finger on it. He did a nice job of, I know what he's going for. He's got the focal point here, this particular flower, and the rest are going to be dropping off into blurriness. And he used a nice wide open aperture of f at 2.8. He didn't bullseye the flower, it's not right in the middle. But I'm really not sure. The only thing I could think of is it's not, maybe the composition of the flowers, they're not dense enough. So I would have maybe had this one here, the focused one, maybe just a little further up with some more in the front of it that were dropping into out of focus, and ones in the back more clumped together. That's all I could really think. There's just something missing here. It's missing an element. Now it's relatively a plain shot as far as color wise, and perhaps if there was like a butterfly on this flower or a bumblebee and that was the focal point, that would add to the shot. But I'm not really sure why it's just missing something. I think it's because the flowers aren't dense enough and contributing to the effect he's going for, making one flower in focus and the rest out of focus. This shot's great. I really do like this shot. I love the colors. I love the rays of the light. He shot at f of 8, which is perfect to get this amount of rays. Remember I mentioned in previous critiques you want to get the pointed light source like a street lamp or the sun, and you want the rays to radiate out from it like a starburst. You want to use a small aperture. When I say small aperture, I mean the hole is small, the f-stop number is large. So f of 8, f 11, f of 16, as you go, the numbers get bigger, the size of the aperture gets smaller, and you'll get more pronounced light rays, like these beams that come out of a street lamp, or in this case the sun. And f of 8 is good. It worked real well. Now if you used like f of 16, these would have been more pronounced. I'm not sure it would have made the picture better. I'm just mentioning that that's how it works. If he was at f of 2.8, he wouldn't have had this effect at all probably. Came out really nice. I like the composition. Again, he didn't bullseye this. This isn't right in the middle. It's low in the lower third a little bit, just barely in the lower third, and it's off to the right a little bit. So here's the center of the shot right here, so it's off to the right, and here's the center going this way, so it's just barely into the lower half, more properly speaking, in the right half. So it's okay, you know, being that way. It's not in the lower third technically, but he did a really nice job. Like the shot. This one here, this goes back to, I've mentioned many times in many of the other critiques, is I feel there's a better picture here, and if he would have worked the scene or was able to work the scene, this shoreline in this like sandbar, or looks like a seaweed bar, they make a nice leading line, and it's just too flat going this way. If he positioned himself more to his right and somehow could have had this leading line leading to these fishing poles maybe, I think it would have been a stronger shot. I really don't know for sure because I wasn't there, but I'm just thinking that there's a better shot here and I'm just not seeing it. A lot of times there's nothing really in the foreground, and when you get shots like these you'd like stuff in the foreground. So maybe if he moved to the right and there was like a a rock or something in the foreground to give some foreground interest. And now like in the previous shot there was nothing really in the foreground either. But this shot has a very, very strong sky and the silhouettes of the palm trees and the clouds and the sun rays, and that's a very strong, strong background. So it kind of you could be excused for not having anything in the foreground. You don't want anything to distract the viewer from looking at this beauty here. But in this case, we need something in the foreground. And I would like to see this leading line, diagonal line, whatever you could make it exaggerated a little more. This shot is beautiful. And I'm going to tell you something about what he did here. And I don't know if he knew this or not, but a lot of photographers, not only do we want to have like complementary colors, like purple and yellow and blue and orange and things that are at opposite ends of the color wheel. You want like complementary textures. You want soft and hard. So you could create really nice compositions if you had like something, a really hard rock in hard rocks and a soft pillowy sky behind it. So that adds interest. In this case, he has these shapes that are very subtle. He has a concave foreground and a convex background. And they're almost right behind each other, one right behind the other. And that adds to the interest to the composition. So you got to look for that when you're out photographing. You look for competing shapes. Our opposites are always good. That's when you say complementary colors, they really could be called conflicting colors. They're opposite ends of the color wheel. So it would be purple is opposite yellow, blue is opposite orange, green is opposite red. So you want these opposing colors. They add tension to the picture. Now he doesn't have that working for him here, but he has these shapes, these opposing shapes. And as I mentioned, you could have textures too. You could have something very soft and something very hard. And they're opposing. It adds interest to the photograph. So when you're out, you look for opposing shapes too. Maybe you have something round and then something square, stuff like that. And it's very subtle, but it adds to the photograph. And he did a great job on this shot. I really like this. Is probably my favorite shot of the ones he sent me. This shot, now this goes back to what I've said numerous times in these critiques, is coming back at a different time of day. How beautiful would this be if the sun was here, right here? I'm not sure the sun would set right in this spot, but maybe at a certain time of year it does. But it's just missing something. The light isn't right. The sky is, hazy. It's just, not something that he could work. He did a nice job of framing. This is called framing. You have the tree here and this other tree or bush over here. And he has foreground interest in this little bench. Maybe someday you could add a little interest. You could have, a child sitting there. Well, maybe you don't want a child sitting on the edge of this cliff. But you maybe have a young lady sitting there, or a couple or something. And so something, to add some interest. But also, I would like to see him go back at different times of day, early in the morning, get some of that warm light in the morning, or late at night, and get a different lighting on this subject. I think it would be a great thing to shoot. He did good on the composition. I just like to see it go back at a different time of day. And this shot here, now you hear me talk a lot, is if you're going to shoot a tree, get the whole tree, not part of the tree. I should probably explain that a little more. If you're shooting a tree, let's say, and you have the grass around the bottom of the tree in the shot, and you're cutting off the top, that's not always good. You don't always want to cut off part of the tree when you have the other end of the tree completely in the shot. In this case, now he cut off the bottom and the top. That makes it more balanced. If he had this shot and he had the bottom, the trunk of the tree going into the ground, and he had the ground there, but he had the top cut off, it wouldn't look as strong of as a shot. So in general, if you're going to cut off parts of a tree, cut off both the top and the bottom. Preferably, if you're going to shoot and you're going to get the bottom of the tree in, make sure you get the top of the tree in, and vice versa. If you're going to have the top of the tree, the entire top of the tree in with sky above it, make sure you have the bottom of the tree in. You don't really want to cut stuff off. The third thing is, if you have a tree in the shot, is it's okay to cut stuff off if you have like a bird's nest here and you have some type of bird sitting here in the bird's nest. You could shoot this part of the tree because the main subject is now the bird. So I like this shot a lot. Back to this actual shot, you got the clouds here, you got this warm light, and it's a really nice shot, and you can just see a edge of the sun right here. So it's a really nice composition. And in here you got some contrasting colors a little bit here, and it's just a really nice composition. I think Norman did a great job, and he sent me some really nice shots. He says he considers himself a beginner, but I mean, I consider him on his way to expert. He did some really good shots. This shot here is a great composition. Just come back at a different time of day or a different time of year and try to get some better light on that subject. This one's just about perfect. I can't find really anything wrong with it. And I mentioned he has the concave and convex shapes competing against each other, and it looks really nice. This one here, I would just like to see him work the scene more and try to exploit this shoreline as a leading line or a diagonal line leading into something interesting, and try to get some foreground interest in this shot. This shot here I like a lot. It's got a really strong sky. He used a perfect f-stop to get the light rays coming from the sun. It's just a nice shot. This one here, I'm just still not sure, but it's missing something. So I just really can't say. I can't be too much more help on that one. So I'd really like to thank Norman for sending me in his shots. I really enjoyed critiquing them. Really, really nice photography. And guys, if you sent me any shots, it's taken me a while. I've got so many in. And as you know, I mentioned in the previous video, I stopped doing the write-ups now. I'm just doing the videos because the videos are a lot faster and easier to do. So I appreciate everyone's patience, and I appreciate everyone watching my videos and commenting and subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'm really, really grateful. Thank you very much. So I'll be doing some more critiques very soon. I have an update for my my Photoshop for photographers, and I have been neglecting my Elements tutorials, my Adobe Photoshop Elements 11 tutorials, because they came out with Elements 12. So I'm going to be segueing it into Elements 12, and we'll be doing some updates on that. And of course, I have the Lightroom tutorials, Learn Lightroom 5, and that has been going along pretty steadily. So look for those coming up this week. And again, I appreciate everyone watching. Thank you.